this is in Kent, Ohio. This is like Silver Meadows Boulevard. You know, I used to play baseball back behind that rock mess back there. This is in Nevada. And so I just started getting out there, and then, you know, it's curious to collect all these things together and put, this is Las Vegas, but, you know, not the part you hear about or see. And then I started to, you know, think about, you know, when my work, I'll move into a different section now because I have many different bodies of work, but I started to, you know, I want to stress that, like, my work seems all nice and tidy and organized, you know, in the process because it's a slideshow that we're doing in retrospect. But, like, really the process of it is all over the place. You know, I shoot, like, houses, you know, nighttime pictures, inside, landscapes, portraits, you know, all this, like, literally in the same week sometimes. And it all comes kind of together through editing. And so these are some photographs that I did in actually 95 and 96 is kind of when it really was happening. But I love, this is a picture of this couple about to embark on the American dream. This is like the Levittown ad for them going into their home. And then this is what happens when, you know, you don't pay the mortgage. And ironically, the thing that's so weird is that, you know, I used to have to explain to people what a foreclosed home was when I talked about this work, and clearly I don't have to do that now. It's a sad reality. But I made these pictures. I really wanted to, I realized that at a certain point, I realized that I could make pictures of places that talk about people, and that they were like, you know, you could photograph a place, and it had something about the people that were there, that, you know, the photograph would, you know, convey something of their existence. And so I started doing this, and, you know, I really think about, you know, my houses, and these are kind of like very much like portraits, really, but they're just places instead. And again, these two are uninterfered with. These are just things that I find, and then I shoot them. And then how I got into some of these places is I had this friend that worked. His stepdad was a realtor, and they used to send these faxes out. This is how long ago this was. They would fax the information. And I would go and drive around Los Angeles and just go into these houses. And then after a while, we figured out that, like, we'd call this guy up and say, hey, what's the lockbox code on that house? And pretending to be the realtor, and then he'd tell us. And then after a few times, we realized that everything that was owned by home savings in America was HSA. So it was super, you know, it was super easy to do. So we went, and I would go and like, get the list and go down and find him on a Thomas with a Thomas guide, which is a map that's, like, you know, very detailed, and shoot these. So that's kind of how that happened. I love this one. This is like, when they walked out the door, they always touched it, and they never wiped it off. And it's just like the existence of somebody charting their own passing on the door. And this is one of the contact sheets from that. This is how it happens. You know, just subtle, minor movements, and, you know, all on a tripod. And then some of the work that influenced this is Walker Evans. This is, you know, a famous photograph from the Farm Security Administration that was taken down south. It's just interesting to have these, you know, pictures of places, you know, walls do talk, you know. They tell about a place. And then some of the other things that, like, this is a really sad picture that, you know, I find to be, it's compelling. It was more compelling before I had a kid, because now I think of my child being that boy, but there's something about sad pictures that are really interesting. There's something about that is, you know, it this one too. This is Nan Golden. This is a picture this is a self-portrait she took after her boyfriend had hit her. She said to remind herself to never let this happen again, is why she took the picture. And then other work that has been influential is like, Edward Hopper's, you'll see Edward Hopper come up all the time in my work. I really love his pictures, but this is one of his drawings of a room. And then Mark Rothko also, I think is really interesting, a painter. I just like these sort of minimal color fields and these monochromatic pieces. And then another person, Rachel White Reed, she's somebody that she does these casts, a sculptor that does a casting of a room. She'll go up and put the plaster up in the corner and then pull it off, and then she recreates the negative space of the room, basically. And then landscapes, like the whole time I've been shooting all that other stuff, I've been shooting landscape pictures, and they just kind of slowly added up. And I got to a point where I had taken this picture, which I really kind of didn't even notice at first, on my contact sheet. I was just sort of stopped at a stop sign, and this had run down the water had run down the window, and then I realized that there was something there that I was interested in, and I snapped a picture. And then, kind of like I was so focused on my houses, and I was driving around, I remember, looking for houses, looking for neighborhoods to go back to at night. And this is a picture that I done. And I was so focused on the houses at night that I never even printed this picture. It just kind of sat on my contact sheets for a long time, and then I ended up coming back to it and printing it. And I realized, wow, this is really interesting. There's something here that's really moving to me. And I just started to kind of think about adding to it. And then I had another picture. I was getting gas pumped, like somewhere in Solon, Ohio, or something. I took this picture, and I just started, kind of like as an artist, you make these things, you have these like tangents that you work, off of, and then you they're kind of like orphans in a way. These pictures that that they are curious and interesting, but they don't yet quite belong to the family of your work yet, and so I just kept making them. And then one time I had this residency in the south of France. And it was actually a really important experience for me, a lesson that I thought, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to go to France. They're going to pay for me to go to France and have a studio for a month, and I'm going to get to make this work. And I thought, wow, this is going to be so cool. And then I got there, and then I started to realize that, I didn't really respond to France as a place. It was beautiful, but I wasn't looking for beautiful. I mean, I was looking for beautiful, but it wasn't the beauty I wanted. And it was too pretty and too picturesque, and the streets, I didn't want to do Achet at night. I wanted to do my work. So it was a really important lesson for me to realize that my pictures were very much about where I came from and the kind of landscapes and the kind of environments that I'm interested in. So that was a really kind of interesting lesson. And so when I was there, I just ended up spending my time in my studio just kind of sequencing my landscape pictures, and knowing that when I came back home, I was going to start really focusing on making a book of landscape pictures. So it kind of starts with this picture, which I like as this sort of metaphorical person looking out into the world. And then I just kind of started shooting, and over several years, I kind of these things added up into a project. And this is, one of the second pictures with the shot through the window of the car. And so I realized that was something that I liked, and that weather was something that I was interested in. And these kind of places. I found this place up in Washington that it has this a similar kind of landscape to Ohio. But kind of rolling hills and bad weather. So it's kind of perfect, the perfect place, and it's only a 2-hour flight from my house. So